Good morning. You'll have to excuse my voice. I have some throat issues today. So today you are going to go through the day 3 notes and do your day 3 classwork, evens, as well as working on your SOL quick check number 4 if you haven't completed it, or beginning on SOL quick check number 5. So first, please make sure that you're watching these video notes and making sure that you understand all the steps. Okay? So last class we talked about factoring trinomials, and today we're going to be talking about adding one step to that, and that is, in any trinomial problem, you should always be looking for your GCF, or your greatest common factor, as your first step. Okay? So let's take a look at this first problem and see what the additional step would be. So I have 1, 2, 3 terms, which means I can't put them in a box of 4 squares because I don't have 4 terms. As we learned last class, we can break that up. However, before I use my magic numbers to break this into 4 terms, I check and see, are there any values that I can take out of all 3 terms to start? And by looking, I can take a 3 from here, I could divide a 3 from here, and I could divide out a 3 from here. If you see at the beginning of a trinomial problem that there is a term in common, then you need to take that trinomial term out at the beginning. So just like we did when we were working with smaller values of 2, before we were factoring trinomials, I'm going to take this 3 out, which means I'm going to divide it out of each of my 3 terms by putting a division symbol and that GCF underneath. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and write our new problem underneath. Grab a different pen, excuse me. Okay. So our new working problem is going to be 3 divides by 3, and it becomes a 1. So this is just 1x squared. And I'm going to put this in parentheses, my new working problem. The 3 cancels out the 3. They divide each other and make a 1. And I get minus x. And negative 60 divided by 3 is going to be negative 20. Okay. So now I have a new trinomial to work with. Okay, so if you're writing down your steps, your first thing is 1, look for a GCF. That should be the very first thing that you do. And you're going to divide it out. Okay, our second step is now noticing that we have a trinomial. 1, 2, 3. We're going to check and see if we can factor this out. So let's see what we can do here. All right, I have to have 4 terms in order to factor it, so I'm going to magic numbers to get 4 terms. Right? Okay, so we're going to start by putting our puzzle X over here. Just a reminder, if there's no number in front, we assume it's a 1. I'm going to do the 1 times negative 20, and I get a negative 20. That's 1 times negative 20, giving me a negative 20. And then in the bottom, I use the term in the middle. I don't multiply it, I don't do anything with it, I just take that number. In this case, it's a negative and 1. So negative 1. Make sure you're including those negatives because they're important to figure out our problem. Okay, so then I look for factors of 20. 1 times 20 is equal to 20. 2 times 10 would be equal to 20. Then I look 3. 3 won't work. 4. If you're not sure, remember that you can take 20 and divide it by 4 in Desmos to see. And you'll find that yes, 4 goes into 25 times. So these are my factors. And adding them or subtracting them, I should be able to get a 1. Adding these, I get 21. If I subtract, I get 19. So it's not these. What about 2 and 10? Add them, I get a 12. Subtract them, I get an 8. So it's not these. Add them, I get a 9. But subtracting, I get a 1. Excellent. So I can use a 4 and a 5 to make a 1. I need one of them to be negative in order for this to multiply to a negative. And I need a negative 1 left over. So if it's 5 minus 4, that would give me positive 1. But a 4 minus 5 would give me negative 1. So my 4 is going to be a positive, and my 5 is going to be a negative. So I'm going to bring down to the next line, and I'm going to keep this 3 with it because it's part of our factor now. I'm just working inside the blue. I keep the first term. I keep my last term with its sign of negative 20. And then I'm going to break this up. This minus 1x becomes plus 4x's and minus 5x. Okay. Once we have 4 terms, then we can use our next step, which is to factor by grouping. Okay. Factor by grouping. I'm using a box for that, right? So now I can take my 4 terms and I can put them in a box to figure out what my factors are. Okay. I have x squared and plus 4x. First 2 go in the first row, second 2 go in the second row. 5x minus 20. Okay. So then I pull my greatest common factor by row and column. In this row, I have an x that I can take out. No numbers because I have a 1 and a 4, but I can take an x from both. Here, do you see how there's a negative sign at the very beginning of the line? I have to take that negative. I can also divide both of these by 5. So I can divide a 5 out. They both do not have an x, so I can't take an x. Then looking at our columns, the front of the line has a plus, it's a positive, so I don't need to pull a negative, and I can take an x. Here, it's a positive, so I don't take a negative. 4 and 20 are both divisible by 4. I can divide them both by 4, so I can take a 4 out. And they don't have an x to take. So these are my new factors. Okay. To write my final answer, I write the 3, which is part of our answer. It's one of our factors. And then x minus 5 from along the column. And my x plus 4 along here. Okay, so this is our final answer. Go ahead and take a minute to try the next one on your own, and then turn the video on and see what you get. Or start the second video, please.